Thank you so much for being there. And I am being joined by Daniel Bwala, who is the special advisor on Mr. President on media and public and policy communication. He joins me virtually from his office in Abuja. Mr. Bwala, if you can hear me, good evening, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. I can hear you, but what I don't know is whether you can hear me.
Of course, sure, I can hear you. I want to confirm if you can hear me from your own end. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. I can hear you very well. Thank you for having me.
All right. You'll be talking to us about a few things that has got to do with the policy of this current government. I mean, the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mr. Bwala, if you can agree with me, untold hardship and be put on Nigerians' shoulder since the assumption of office, especially with this government. And there is this huge insecurity. There are so many things we can go on and talk that has become on the high level since the assumption of this government. What strategies is this government putting in place to address all these challenges? You talk about insecurity, you talk about transportation, you talk about high price of living, high cost of living. There are so many things. You talk about electricity. What exactly is this government doing to put things in place or address these challenges that Nigerians are facing?
Well, thank you for having me. When you say what measure is the government taking, I feel tempted to ask whether you're just coming to the country, because over the last 18 months and more, the government has been putting in place policies and also communicating to Nigerians about what the government is doing, even receiving feedback from Nigerians as to whether the policy implementation is affecting the lives of the ordinary people,
okay,
so that the government will take feedback from Nigeria, improve upon it, and move forward. So since the policy was introduced that brought about increased revenue, what we did was to use the increased revenue to deal with critical areas affecting the governing structure. So the governing structure, the money, we were able to increase the allocation to states, that the states, 26 states that were before now adjudged as bankrupt and unable to pay salaries for workers, now don't have that as a problem because they have enough revenues to pay salaries and to go beyond that and do infrastructure. Then on the area that affects the Nigerian people because of the high cost of living and inflation, we introduced different types of ranging from food items like rice that was sent to the Nigerian people, as well as other areas in which we help farmers and people in business to be working up to make the life easy for the Nigerian people.
Okay.
If you look at the area of transportation, we introduced the CNG buses. So almost on all areas that affect the economy of the people and of the country, we're working day and night. So these are the measures we have been taking to ameliorate the hardship confronting the people.
All right, fantastic. But a lot of Nigerians are saying that they are not feeling the impact of these policies that you've taken, especially in the area of food insecurity. We've seen food prices skyrocketed. We can even say about 30% to 40% increase before the assumption of this office. Now, it's one thing to take policies, and it's another thing to take policies that works. Do you think that the policies this government is taking, that the Nigerian people are saying that they're not feeling it at all? You talk of transportation, it has gone high due to the hike in petrol. You talk about insecurity. Now, it's one thing to say your policies, another thing to say these policies are actually working. Now to you, Mr. Daniel Bwala, these policies, do you think they are working?
Yeah, the policies are working, but understandably, because of the population of Nigeria, the policies will, however, take some time to be able to sink in and affect a wider demography in Nigeria. For example, if you look at the intervention in the area of the agriculture, we have made and we're making enough seedlings, fertilizers to farmers. But of course, you know that agriculture, when you plant, you wait until it grows. So you have to give it a certain time before the harvest, and then you will be able to judge whether at that point there is an increase. In the course of agricultural revolution that we're introducing, we also have natural disasters like the flood in the Northeast, which affected production. And anytime there is a distortion in the supply chain, you know that it will affect the inflation in the indices. But we are now back. We bounced back. And if you have noticed in the last 1 week, we by ourselves went to the market to ask for prices of items. In Kano, for example, we have about 3 or 4 different items that have the prices have dropped by about 40%. So this is increase. We're also looking at areas
I'm
in the
sorry to cut you
northwest,
short. You talk
north
about
central.
the reduction of food items. Can you be specific? Tell us exactly, because I go to the market every day and I buy things. I haven't seen any difference. So I'm wondering, when you're saying that in agricultural aspects it has reflected. Myself,
Okay,
I
so
haven't seen.
okay, so how much did you buy bag of rice in December?
You mean
Can
December
you
last
remember?
year?
Yeah, December last year. And now the prices have dropped. December last year, it went as far as 120,000. Now it is 60 and 70. Is that the price drop? And then you also check beans, maize, millet, and then you look at fish. So prices of items are going down gradually. Uh, Understandably, it cannot all go down immediately. And like I told you, because of the population of Nigerians, let's say, for example, the CNG buses, people all over the country are showing interest. They are going into our CNG centers, but the infrastructure in place is small compared to the population demanding. So you have to give it a certain time, when more private sector will take part in it, and then it will now go wider. Then we can say more Nigerians are feeling. So Nigerians may be right. Some Nigerians may be right to say that they are not feeling it, maybe because the population is large, the infrastructure is small, the policy is such that it will take a little more time to reach out to the people. If you look at education, for example, we know that school fees have increased in different parts of the country across public and private sector. But fund, which provide opportunity for students to access loans for their education. That is also for those who have accessed it. They will tell you they feel the impact of the policy. But for those who have not accessed it, they will tell you they have not felt the impact of the policy. In December, if you are not from Abuja, you may have traveled for Christmas in December, and you may have heard story about transportation systems that were made available by half the normal price, subsidized by the federal government, so that Nigerian people who are traveling for whether Salah programs or for Christmas or any other festive period that affects the ordinary citizen, so that people don't have to suffer that much. So the effort is there. You can see trickle down effect of the policy, but we know it will not work overnight. It will take time, but we are putting in place structure that will make a long and lasting solution to the problem confronting the people.
You mentioned distribution of rice, and that's where palliatives comes in. And a lot of people have asked, as a nation, as the greatest nation in Africa, are we supposed to survive on palliatives, or is the government supposed to, create an enabling and conducive environment where individuals can thrive rather than living on palliatives?
Yes, the government ought to create an environment where we build entrepreneurs, where we have a working population, what we call productive population, people who produce rather than people who consume. But if you look at the dynamics confronting our people, if you look at a World Bank report that says a certain number of Nigerians are living in multidimensional poverty, so you have to deal with that critical problem. You can only deal with that through intervention. You cannot take for example, you can't pick somebody who is dying of hunger, who has not eaten, to say you want to make him a manufacturer. So intervention is always part and parcel of policy reforms, and it is meant for the vulnerable. We don't take money and give to rich people. We take money and give to people who probably are not educated, or people who are educated but they don't have job. Some they have job, they have been sacked, or some who are still looking for job, or some people whose earning is less than the cost of living. So the intervention and palliative we're talking about is to the vulnerable, and the vulnerable are important in the society. Any society that neglects the vulnerable, that society will not go far, because the vulnerable are the foundation, in fact, the indices for you to measure whether the nation succeeds or not. We also have a program for this thing you're talking about in terms of production, people to have something to do. Remember entrepreneurship, we have introduced the credit system. We even created a credit board, a credit organization that will stand in as a guarantee for people who are going into business to access loan and then to be able to launch. We are launching the tech. If you look at what the Minister of Communication and Technology is doing, introducing, we want to bring Silicon Valley to Nigeria. So we have the programs that affect those who are probably entrepreneurs, the working population, and a productive middle class. We have those. But the reason why we constantly emphasize this intervention is because we don't want to take our eyes off of the realities of what our people are facing. In fact, it affects even you, the media, because anytime you ask questions, you say our people are hungry, people are dying.
So but that's the truth. Nigerians are hungry. There is insecurity. Insecurity is on the high level. So people are being killed every day. It's not like Nigerians are just saying for saying sake. That's the reality Nigerians are faced with. Nigerians are hungry. Or don't you have people who come to you and complain of hunger, Mr. Bwala?
No, you are missing the point. You are completely missing the point. We were talking about intervention which deals with the hungry people. You want to take me away from there to say, are we going to be building a population that will always give palliatives? We should be talking about a population that are productive. So that's why I'm telling you that our focus is still, we have plans for those productive people, but our focus is still on those who are hungry. So you're missing the point to think as if I'm saying that people are not hungry. We are well aware of them that are coming our people. And we're working day and night to ensure that our people find path to survival, and then from survival path to being productive.
Fantastic. Okay, then I've heard members of your party say give President Tinubu more time, and you've just stated that your policies will take time. It's a matter of time. But then, when members of your party, I mean the APC particularly, say give President Tinubu more time, and now talking about your plans and for these plans to mature, how much more time do Nigerians need to give to the president?
Sometimes I feel like you're repeating it.
No, it's not about repetition. But that's the truth. Your members of your party have come out to say the president is not a magician, so he needs more time. But no doubt, Rome was not built in a day. But what we are particular about is how much more time Nigerians are going to give this government.
Depending on what exactly are your expectations, because the policies we have introduced, I probably in the last 15-20 minutes, I've been talking to you about the result we are seeing. Then I'm sure that your question may probably relate to those bigger expectations of Nigerians, which people keep saying give President Tinubu time. So let me give you an example. If it's somebody is in probably wants to invest very big in industry or has invested in industry, but the policy is such that it will take time to materialize, then you can say how much time do you need. But when we talk about policies, some of which have begun materializing, which I told you about the increased revenue that created opportunity for states to have revenue. We talk about transportation. I told you about education. I told you about agriculture. In the area of insecurity, I disagree with you that insecurity has increased, except if you are not following statistics. When President Tinubu came on board, the insecurity was very bad in the northeast and in the northwest. In fact, when Buhari was leaving government, if you remember, the bandits and terrorists were even coming to Abuja. There was a time they made a very reckless statement that they will come and kidnap the president in Villa. Our soldiers were killed somewhere here in Buhari. Then these kidnappers were entering Abuja. That's not the case today. If you look at the northwest, bandits are even coming out to surrender because every day the Nigerian army and security forces are pouncing on them. If you look at the northeast, you will see improvement. I come from Borno State, so if you come to Borno State, you can go to Bama. That used to be like the baseline of the Boko Haram. We are taking our people back to their locations. If you are talking of when will insecurity completely end, then I have a bad news for you. There is no country in the world where there is no insecurity one way or the other. Crime will never stop. Our job as government is to minimize crime and ensure our people have freedom to move, freedom to carry on with their lives, with business, and freedom to have a very happy and fulfilling life. That will continue to be the government objective. That will continue because the fundamental principles of government is security of life and the welfare of the people. So we have to constantly work towards that, but we have improved very significantly security-wise. In fact, the area that we keep, pleading with Nigerians to give us time are areas, for example, that we are robustly investing in, like in agriculture that I told you about. Because now it's not a problem in Nigeria alone. The G20 that was held, what did they tag as a theme? They said climate change and dealing with hunger. Hunger is in America, in England. You need to see people in the United Kingdom who are now on Nigeria, where we see beggars who used to complain. Then you hardly see them in the Western world. Now you see on the streets of London, people who are sleeping because of hunger. It's a global phenomenon. But our own part is to focus on our people and show that we deliver on the promise so our people can have a fulfilled life.
Okay, let's talk about let's talk about productivity. And I don't know if you're aware, but according to a report, about 767 manufacturing companies have left Nigeria since in the space of, is it 2023 or something? But then you're just telling us that the government is trying to create an avenue where Nigerians can be productive. We can produce what we consume by ourselves. Now, are you worried about this high figure of manufacturing companies that have left Nigeria due to holistic environment? And what is the fate of Nigeria when we even talk about that? Is this something to be worried about? Are you worried?
No, I'm not worried. Let me explain to you. Yes, if you care to listen, would you listen?
I would listen, of course. Of course.
Okay, so some of the company, dollar, people will go to wherever they find dollar, right? And dollar will go to wherever investment is friendly. Have you not wondered that in the days when we used to have heavy insecurity in Nigeria, very terrible insecurity that you would think people will not conduct business, these companies you are talking about were comfortably working in Nigeria when the climate was very unfriendly. Now that we're putting the climate in order, they are leaving. You would have asked yourself the question, why? Because most of these companies, what they benefit seeking, they avoid paying taxes, bring their labor from abroad, or they jump regulations. They don't fulfill their obligations. They do however they like. Now, this government came with what we call reform. Reform is not a joke. Reform means, let me give you an example of taxes. We introduced the tax law, right? It means that you cannot run from paying tax. A company that has been benefiting without paying tax, when you say they will pay tax, you are now bringing them to reality check. If they see how much they are now going to be paying, which they feel that it is not conducive compared to how they have been benefiting before, they will want to run away. So majority of the companies that were leaving were actually leaving not because the investment climate is not favorable. No, they are leaving because those free chips and freebies that they were getting at the Nigerian people will no longer work. Have a company operating in a place where there is pollution, killing the people in the land, and when you now say they have to pay a fair share so we can deal with a climate issue, they will say they pack and they are leaving. So this same period that you talk about companies leaving, there are companies coming in with joy to invest in Nigeria. One of which I can't remember the name of the company. Within 6 months, they made massive interest and profit. So we are creating a climate where the business must be done the right way. And we do not care whether 1,000 companies leave if what we want to do is the right thing. Because at the end of the day, companies that want to compete based on rules, laws, companies that want to abide by our regulations, and companies that will get return on investment, they will do that. We know the areas that we need to improve as a country to create that confidence in the market so that investors will come. That is what the president has been traveling around the world to convince them. We are going to.
Could you please tell us some of those areas? Could you tell Nigerians some of those areas you think that when you invest more, it would, put the economy of this country in good shape? What are those areas?
Let me give you an example. Yes, the area, for example, before the president came on board, in the aviation and transportation system, a number of foreign companies that own airlines and they do business around this our aviation sector. Whenever they want to recoup their capital, they have a problem recouping it. Of note is the Ethiopian airline, we call this airline from Dubai, Emirates Airline, which resulted in the big issue between Nigeria and Emirates, and they stopped operating because they couldn't get back their $200 and so $million. this government came, were able to pay off that one. So we are creating that confidence in the market where you want your money, you can have your money. That is in the area of industry and aviation. There are other areas in manufacturing. They need certain incentive that when they bring that investment, they will be able to return their capital. You know, every foreign company wants to be sure that whenever we want our money out of the can have it out of the country. That's the baseline. In those days, it used to be a problem because of forex problem. We have unified the forex market, so you get your money anytime you want. These are examples of those regulatory framework and climate that the president is bringing to bear that will create confidence. Competition is also key. One company cannot come and hijack the country and say we are the only one that will operate in this industry, otherwise we are going to go. No, we want to make sure the private sector is free for competition. So if another company that is going to operate in a line of business close to your own comes, as long as they abide by the law, we give them the environment to create. So that you cannot maintain market dominance, what we call monopoly in international business law in the market. So reform usually would only work for people who want to do business the right way. These companies that are leaving, you know one funny thing, when they go back to their countries, the taxes in their country is even more. So why is it that whenever they leave here, they go back, they collapse in their country? You should have asked that question. Companies, give me full of companies that left Nigeria, and that wherever they went back to, they thrive from there. As soon as they get there, they collapse. And they now want to come to it because here they get all these freebies. They escape regulation. They avoid paying of taxes. They cut corners. This is what most of these companies have been doing for long. And we said we are not going to accept that.
Okay, but how about the employment rates, which this company that has leaving, we can agree that it has left some Nigerians jobless. I mean, but then I want to understand, I want to compare this administration and the previous, because the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu told us clearly that he was ready for this job. And now let's compare, since the assumption of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the previous administration, we've seen inflation gone high. We've seen food security gone high. We even see what the IMF is talking about our economy. We also, okay, I have an analysis. In this government, inflation has rose to 24.48%, while in the last administration, it was at 21.34%. Now, when you talk of food, we talk about the GDP. The GDP during the Buhari administration has it at 3.25%, while in this current administration, it is reading 2.86%. And so on. So now, when you looking at these factors and these datas, would you say that this government actually sold a false dream to Nigerians? Because this is beyond the expectations of Nigerians. When he came out and told us that he asked for this job, he is ready to work, and he is ready to fix things, but we've seen depreciation instead of increase. How do you justify that, Mr. Bwala?
Yes, the reason, like I told you earlier on, when you introduce a reform, you are like starting all over again. You are trying to put fundamentals in their proper place. Means that before now, the approach may have been bad. The approach may have been such that it is no longer sustainable. If you remember, I told, okay, I didn't tell you today, but you want to know why inflation has gone up from the previous administration. It's because in the previous administration, we were defending the Naira, and you use money to defend the Naira, and it is about $2 billion every month. We no longer have that money to do that. Previous administration, we were subsidizing for petrol, means that Nigerians pay less and the Nigerian nation pay the remainder of the money so that Nigerians will not have to suffer. But we later found out that the subsidy that we were paying, a greater number of the greater volume of that subsidy was actually not benefiting the Nigerian people, but racket in the oil and gas sector. Okay. President now said, no, if it was affect Nigeria, we have not been able to do infrastructure and so many things because of lack of money. We don't now. One, we don't have money to defend the naira. We have to allow naira to compete. They develop the critical infrastructure so that when we become a manufacturing country, a productive country, dollars will come in, and that means naira will be stronger. Secondly, with the oil, I said we are not going to be subsidizing. So instead of giving the subsidy, Nigerians will pay for the fuel, but then the money, the profit that the government makes of it, can now be used. So that money, that profit now, so inflation has gone up, but the profit that came from the removal of subsidy has now been paid back to governors, and they too in turn have increased the salary of staff. So maybe the price of bread from 1 naira has become 10 naira, but it has found its way back into the increase of your salary. I know there is this debate and competition around whether even the increase of salary is sustainable given the inflation, right? So what we're saying is that excess revenue that we're having now has helped us to even do infrastructure, has enabled us to give loans to students, has enabled us to give credits to entrepreneurs, has enabled us to invest in those areas that are called critical area of economic growth. So that instead of living an artificial life where we are surviving and living a lifestyle based on borrowing, which cannot be sustained, we have decided to live a lifestyle based on reality. As you and I are talking, if you are living a lifestyle based on borrowing, you can afford to buy anything you want. The minute you decided that you are now going to live based on what your salary will provide, you know that it's going to affect your lifestyle in all areas. That is exactly what is happening. We are now deciding, rather than living a borrowed and fake life, we will live based on the reality of the strength of our country and the economy. So there
But the
is
truth is
hardship.
that we are still
But
borrowing.
now the point, let me
We are
finish.
still borrowing. Are we not
But the
borrowing?
point is, let me finish. But the point is, are we saying that this hardship will last forever? No. So we're begging Nigerians to give government reform that will be comprehensive overnight. I don't know what language I need to use to repeat it over and over and over, but there is no.
Maybe if you give us a
plan,
projection, if you give Nigerians a projection, if you give Nigerians projection,
Yeah.
they might understand, because we saw the projections that were brought during the 2025 appropriation budget. So you've said that over times, and the president has equally said that. But is there no way you can give Nigerians projection just like you've given in the 2025 budget? I'm talking about borrowing.
Yes.
Mind you, we're still borrowing. So I don't know.
Now we are not borrowing to eat, we are borrowing to invest in infrastructure, borrowing to invest in critical areas that makes for economic growth. That's the difference. And number two, when the president came on, there was already a debt of 72 trillion naira that must be paid within 3 years. So with this revenue, while he is increasing the salary of workers, he's giving intervention to the masses, increasing the revenue for the governor, investing of the economy. So no money comes and stays like that. It is being reinvested to put the economy in a better structure. That is two, and the most important thing. You look about projection. The president was voted into government for 4 years, which constitutes this time. I am saying that Nigerians can begin to. I have already mentioned those areas for seeing gains. Once that the gains are not visible, let us give the president time before the end of his first term, be able to judge the kind of progress we have made. And if the Nigerian people are not happy by the end of the time, they will do what to do. So, but expecting the president overnight in 18 months to economy, if not because of the want of time, if we sit down and I tell you, I will give you just graphic example. This country that I are occupying, experts in the economy, experts in government said it is a fact based on data that for this country that you and I are in to compete favorably with other countries of the world, that this country every year on infrastructure alone, not other areas, only infrastructure, we must invest between 30 billion to 100 billion dollars every year. Now, what is the budget of Nigeria for this year? Less than 35 billion dollars for the entire thing that the government has to do. But only on infrastructure you need 100 billion. So you know that it is not realistic for the expectation to see overnight one. And over a period of 30 years, we must invest about 2.1 to 3 trillion dollars, then we can say, okay, Nigeria now has getting the balance to compete with other nations. So that is the reality. And what we're doing is we're communicating to Nigerian people. And while we do that, and while we keep telling them to give us faith and give us time, we are now investing in that critical area I talked about, so that people don't die waiting. They will still eat while they are waiting. They will be able to work while they are waiting. They will be able to invest. They will be able to access no credit. They will go on with their.
All right, viewers. Well, we've been speaking with Daniel Bwala, and Daniel Bwala is the special advisor to the president on media and policy communication. Now, Mr. Bwala, 2 more questions, please. I'm going to ask you these 2 questions at the same time. So, I heard you mentioned about increments in salaries. And while you talk about increments in salaries, we've also seen the electricity tariff hike gone up. We've seen items in the market gone up. Now you increase the salary and also increase tariffs. Is that not does that not look like robbing Peter to pay Paul? And secondly, help us justify these economy policies, because we've seen the performance of the 2024 budget. It performed so poorly. So now 2 questions. You talked about increments in salary. There is the increment in salary, and also on the other hand, there is a hike in the way the common man lives. So Nigerians see it as robbing Peter to pay Paul. Then talk to us about these policies and how this government intends to, for this 2025 budget not to underperform like the 2024 budget.
Yeah, 2025 budget will do far better than 2024 budget, because we have learned in areas in which, first of all, 2024 budget tried its best. I mean, we have seen areas of investment, but we have just come to that. Yes, we have just come to that full realization that there is not enough money to deal with the budget. So we have to make do with what we have. The whole idea of the called economics is that you have limited resources, you have unlimited ones, and you have to prioritize. This in secondary school. So when you have unlimited ones, you have limited resources, you have to prioritize. It means you have to bring your managerial skill on knowing how in this area it will get better tomorrow. To invest in this area. This one is short term. Okay, this one might be mid term. Oh, the other one will be long term. That is how government get around the budget. The budget is small, but that is what the government is doing. 2025 budget, there's going to be improvement in that area. We respect the economy, like we have said it over and over. Government continues to implement its policies, but government is also open to feedback from Nigerians. You gave an example of increased salary and yet hike in the electricity tariff. Yes, the massive government will take the input. If the government sees that the increase is bringing untold hardship but it's not sustainable, then the government will have to reconsider. But the people have to know the increase in the electricity tariff is so that the services sector will be efficient. Because if you don't have enough infrastructure to provide the full service, people are charged high, and yet they cannot pass. Like you pay GSM company, but your text can't go through, your call is being distorted, and then you're not enjoying the service at all, and yet you're paying. So if they increase the tariff, but provide services in such a way that your call goes through, and when you're talking, the line is okay, if you send the message, it's okay, people would always be confident there is value for whatever they are paying. In England, one of the countries that collect the highest number of tax, as if they would tax the life out of people, but they provide social services that in turn comes back to them. So this is how government navigates. And we urge the Nigerian people, every day we speak with them, we tell them he's doing the right thing, we're putting the right structure. Where we are today, the problem that the president came and found was not a problem 1 year or 2 years or one term, but he has decided to guiding us correct.
All right, that's interesting. I want to understand something before we take few more questions. You take few more questions rather. As the special advisor to the president, how close are you to the president? Did you, is your job, is it part of communicating the Nigerian feelings and the pains and, the Nigerian reaction to these policies? I mean, how close are you to the president? Are you very, very close to Mr. President? Are you?
My sister, don't join the group of lazy journalists who peddle narratives and agendas. Can you appoint somebody as an advisor if the person can't advise, the person is not having proximity enough to advise him? That's one. Number two, can it for the president if I don't have his authorization? And when you talk about weather communicating policy, what are we doing now? Do you know I canceled 3 programs so I can be in this your program, speak on behalf of the president to the Nigerian people? Can I do that if I don't have the mind, the ears of the president? Don't follow those media, those journalists. What journalists are doing is that they are conspiring with some people who are pushing discord, disharmony. And so they come and ask these lazy questions. And the question in itself is back at them. When you ask someone close to your principal, and yet you call the person to speak on principal, and is speaking to you about the principal. So where did I come from? From the bush?
I'm not saying so because
in the bill that I came here.
I have a reason for asking that particular question, because I want to understand if Nigerians, if all that you've told us, I mean, I must say that you've spoken so well, and the policies of this government is very fantastic, and Nigerians are willing to be patient to see the manifestation of these policies. But then, why I asked how close you are to the president is because I record, and we record very well, that at the time you criticized this government so badly. You even said that whoever believes in this same government is like going to a night of 1,000 laughs. And I'm now saying, so I wonder what has changed. So should Nigerian believe you? Are you speaking out of conviction? That's why I had to ask if you're very, very close to Mr. President. I have my reason for asking.
No, you have further compounded your case by complicating yourself and mixing. What has you are not or in the government?
But Mr. Bwala, did you say those things or not? I want to understand. But did you say those things? That's the question.
No, actually, I am praying that journalists will be hardworking, research based, so they can discuss on substance and not things that matter. Don't follow them. You are.
And that's what I'm saying. I want to believe you heard me when I say these policies are fantastic and Nigerians are willing to wait, no problem at all. But we want to understand
end the conversation from there and say,
really you're saying all this out of conviction. Because some time ago we want to agree with you that these governments, it's like you said, you describe them as a.
So you called me to interview me on the policy and you spent extensive time. We discussed the point is, thank you, Daniel, for your time. Hope again, and you end it. Leave those other agenda journalists. Don't follow their path. Nigerians have known them. If when you said in the past, you say so. If what I said yesterday, let's say for example, it created headache for the president, who is supposed to take the medication, you or the president? The president still say, "Come and let's work together." Don't follow them, my sister. They are agenda journalists. They are not professional. They are highly unethical. We know what is going on in the streets. Don't follow them. When call a guest, talk on that policy, interrogate. You have question anything, but stay on focus. But when you leave that one and they start taking you to this thing that they are doing, you are young, you are vibrant, you are research based, and you want to follow them. They will mislead you.
I think you're getting it all wrong. It's because
let me finish. Let me come. Can I land?
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, good. The idea that social media, the unregulated social media, that a phenomenon where people go for ratings, they go for views, and there is no way views can increase unless there is controversy. So that some of the journalists in the mainstream media break broadcasting codes in order to create controversy in interviews so they can generate
Mr. Bwala, I want to respectfully disagree with you, because what I'm saying is you are the nearest person I can communicate to, because I don't have access to the president. So I am just asking to be sure, or to before I take you by your word, I have to see some conviction in you, and that's why I have to refer back to. That's why I have to refer back to what you've said. You're the only person I can communicate to. I can communicate to you if I want to get to the president. You're my nearest means of getting to the president. So that's why I want to understand if all these are out of condition.
No, you got it wrong. If you want to communicate with me before going to the president, then that question should have come first. Bwala, before you, I want to know, are you close to the president?
No, so you're the one who is close to the president.
You say?
You're the one who is close to the president, and if I want to pass any information to the president, I have to go through you. You deliver the message or the information to the president.
So do you want me to go and ask the president whether I'm close to him?
No. I mean conviction. I asked the last question. I said conviction. All you're telling Nigerians, are you saying it out of conviction and fact? Because we are just we are looking at what you have said regarding this government the few years back. So I'm trying to understand.
Sister, I assume that you are finished. It's a good place to say thank you. We'll talk to you another time.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Bwala, for speaking with us this evening. It's been wonderful having you around. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, this is where we draw the curtain for today's program. And like I said earlier, Daniel Bwala, who is the special advisor to the president on media and policy communication, has been speaking with us. This is where we draw the curtain. Until we come your way some other time. And remember, see Emily, to keep watching Kaftan Television and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye for now.